Welcome, everybody, to another episode of the Future of BizTech. I'm your host, JC Granger, and I have the pleasure of interviewing a partner and VP of Sales at FieldApps, Josh Snyder. Thank you so much for being on the show. Tell the audience a little bit about FieldApps and yourself, and what do you guys do?
Yeah, I appreciate that, JC. Yeah, so we launched this la end of last year. We are what's known as a AI wrapper company, and we use AI to build bespoke software products to solve business and or operational challenges for businesses globally.
Okay, so it's a general statement, right? It's like, okay, here's what we do with that, but let's walk through let's like a use case, right? So, for example, I mean, me and you had a talk last week about this, and I was absolutely blown away at how completely easy you guys have made it, frictionless, for someone to take an idea they have in their head and turn it into a product. Walk us through a little bit about like what does that like who do you work with first? Like who is the most likely candidate that would want to use Field Apps? And then how easy is it for them to extract their idea and make it a real thing with you guys?
Yeah, it's a great question. So that's where the creativity part of this is real exciting at this time because you don't need to go down the road of traditional software development and trying to go back and forth with conveying requirements and getting that into code and then having that code meet requirements. We no longer need to do that at all. Just like you and I are sitting down here talking, I can just transcribe a conversation that I'm having with someone, mostly in operations is what we deal with, where they're having a problem of some sort. They have a pain point that they'd like to solve via software. And so we talk, they tell us their idea of how they'd like to solve it. We actually are able to take that transcription, put it into an AI build engine, and within an hour or two after that conversation, present back to them a front end prototype of what they were talking about. And so then we use that as the basis to continue to iterate and get it to a place where it's an enterprise grade, fully production ready piece of software.
So okay, so basically what you're saying is so if I said, hey, I want to make a marketing software, right? And I say, okay, I want to copy all of the best features from these four softwares, right? Because nothing ever has everything you want, right? I don't know why that is, but so I say, hey, I want the features from this software, I want the features from that one, and features from this one. And so we jump on a call, and you start asking me questions, and I say, yeah, I want it to be able to do this and this, and here's why. So the whole time you've got your your note taker, which everyone has now, right? During a meeting, and it has your AI note taker, and at the end of that, you say, okay, great, give us X amount of time and we're gonna build a prototype. And from my understanding, what you're saying is you take that and you essentially insert it along with any other maybe materials or links or whatever of reference that we talked about into an AI master prompt or something like that, or an engine or a storage, and then it will build out what that's like a prototype, what it's supposed to do and look like. That's the first stage, right?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And you can put along with the transcription other visuals like screenshots of what you're talking about, the best things that you like out of the piece of software that you're referencing, PDFs, Google Docs, whatever you have that would add to the conversation that we had. But mostly these days, we're just doing it via conversation.
That's amazing. So, okay, that part's great, but it obviously doesn't get the whole thing built. So, what's the next step? So, you show me the prototype, right? We have another conversation. Where do we go from there?
Yeah, we want to make sure that the front end part, because that's the user experience part, that is completely what the client's looking for. How it looks and feels, how it functions, how you flow through the use of it. Once we have that, and it's all fake data, but it's clickable and all that. Once we have that and we're ready to go for the full build, well, then we actually build it for real with real data, hooking to the back end to whatever it needs to go to. We're agnostic in that way. And then it's ready to integrate with other maybe pieces of software that the company already has in use that they want it to connect to, or maybe it's just a standalone, or maybe it just dumps into a data warehouse, a database of some sort. And then, the rest of the process is really you can have an enterprise grade, production ready piece of software to use out in the field within 3 months.
Wow. Okay. So, but that second part, though, is that well, after we had that second conversation, I've looked at the prototype, given all the feedback, which I imagine you record that conversation as well, right?
Correct.
Um,
Yep.
and then does that now go to like regular coders that are all sitting there at computers, or does that again go back into an AI engine to build it out?
There is no human coding going on with this entire process. So every time we talk and we would meet, basically we can go as fast as you want to go. So if you want to meet 5 times a week and we transcribe all of those and we take it back and put it into the build engine, you know, prompted by our team of humans, but no human coding is involved, then we'll iterate as fast as you want to iterate. And so we can get it done in a compressed time if you want to meet more regularly. But yeah, every time we meet, we record. You give us any docs you want to give us, it goes right into the build engine, and we just make it to your image.
And you're saying this whole thing can be done in 90 days or less, essentially, if all goes well.
Yeah, like I said, it can even be less if you want to meet with us more often.
What about okay? So now I've got the software. My first concern is, and I think what a lot of people listening might think is like, okay, yeah, but is it buggy? Right? Like there was no coders involved, so you had humans overseeing it. Obviously, you have a staff, I'm
Sure.
sure, that know how to code and they're overseeing what it is. But the question is going to enter the mind of like, okay, well, if mostly people aren't really on this, how do we know it's not going to be full of bugs? So how do you address that? And then how would you address if people wanted to add future well, how about this ongoing bug issues? So let's just start there. What about bugs and what about anything that happens, as because software sometimes just as you add more data into it, more load, it can get funky. So what about the maintenance side of it?
Yeah, bugs are always going to exist, right? Just because things change. And so that's a great question because what we also build into it is an AI maintenance engine. So we're eliminating the notion of what's called technical debt, that 3, 4, 5 years down the road, you have to revisit this old code with humans to fix it and make it more modern and all those things that normally you have to do. You don't have to do that anymore because we're building an AI maintenance engine into it. And so the AI is recognizing operating system changes, security system changes, things of that nature that have to go on all the time with software and fixing it for you, being babysat by some humans to make sure that it is actually doing what it's supposed to.
So if I find a bug in my software, you deliver it to me, I'm messing with it. It's going great, but I see this little thing. I'm like, it does that. How do I address that? Is there like a little button that like looks like an AI and it pops up and I can just say, hey, this thing doesn't work. Please fix it. Or do I contact you guys? I mean, like I guess like from my point of view, in real time on the spot, if I find a bug, how do I address that?
The AI maintenance engine will actually recognize it for you.
Okay. What if
Yeah,
it's something
so
visual that isn't necessarily maybe categorized as a bug, but it's something I didn't realize would happen, and
that's
I
a
go,
great.
that's actually not good. Maybe it's not a coding bug as much as I envisioned it to look a certain way or act a certain way, and it's just not. What if I wanted to either change that feature, or I guess to add the next question coming up, which is, what if I think of a new feature? I'm like, oh, I want to add this thing. I want it to do this one more step. How do I add features and how do I fix features that maybe just weren't what I anticipated?
Yeah, that's where the whole thing is now very customer driven. So there's two ways to do that. One, we can build into the piece of software a portal for you to do just that. Make changes to the software, make upgrades to the software, and all your suggestions do that you either, you know, conversationally put in there or type in there, will feed the AI build engine to make those changes for you. So it's only limited by your own imagination. So it's
I
really.
can add features on the fly.
Yep. So it'll go into the AI build engine in a customer-driven way, recognize what you want, and then the AI bots basically will go and code that additional piece that you want in there, or change a color on the front end, the UI, really, whatever you want.
But if I did want a more human interaction, let's because some people just, they want to talk to the server and not use the QR code. You know what I mean? Like, so,
Yes.
but do I still have the option of like calling you up or scheduling a meeting
Yes.
like, hey, can I just talk to someone really quick here and to help me through this? Like, or am I on my own?
No, you always have access to our team. We do have humans that are, guiding the AI along, making sure it's prompted correctly, making sure what it produces on the output side is what it's supposed to produce. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, there are real humans here that you can call, email, hit me up on LinkedIn, whatever you'd like.
Sure.
But yeah, there is a way to contact us to convey what you'd like. Calendar links to actually sit down with us in, a video call like this that we can continue to transcribe. If you liked that way of interacting with us, or you like sitting down on a video call and having it transcribed and then that going to the build engine, you can continue to do that as well.
I mean, the thing is, when I first talked to you about this, it kind of the timeline is what blew my mind more than anything, right? And then the pricing did too. We'll talk about that in a minute. But it'd be like if someone said, I want this new custom house, this new $1 million house, and I want it done in 90 days, right? Like that's insane. Like although I say that, but I actually have a friend who invested in and is running a 3D printing company for homes. It's like a giant 3D printers that literally can build a home. So like that's even already becoming a thing. But I mean, the fact that you can build an enterprise level software, not like a widget or something like that. We're talking like intricate things in under 9 days is phenomenal to me. But now we are on a podcast which is date and time stamped. So I'll let you decide how comfortable you are with giving actual prices or just ranges. But for anyone listening, we're recording on June 2nd of 2025. So if Josh does decide to throw out any pricing, just know it only applies to today and that could change. But what I do want to show the impact though of because people listening who have these ideas in their head, because I'm one of millions of people who wanted something, but it's the time and the hassle of hiring coders and getting the right ones and the pricing are big hurdles to making what's in our head and our software dreams come true, so to speak. So what can you tell us about how your current pricing model works or where it's going to show people like how low of an entrance this can be?
Yeah, it's pretty low compared to traditional ways of pricing these sort of things where you can spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars depending on how complex the piece of software is, and then you won't get that piece of software until 6 to 18 months down the road.
Yeah.
Uh, Now you can do it for a very palatable 5 figures and have it delivered to you in 90 days. So there's a small fee to do the full prototype, not just what we take on in, say, an initial meeting. That we just do on us to get you your head wrapped around your idea and what it's going to look like. And then we go into a full prototype for a very low amount of money, and then that only takes 30 days. And then should that meet all the needs and all the requirements, then we go into the 3 month build cycle. And then there's a maintenance after that where the AI bots are maintaining the software for you.
If someone does the prototype and they decide, you know what, I'd rather just take this and go hire someone. This isn't a good fit for me. Do they own that prototype? Do they get
Yeah,
that with all the code and they can take that away if they really wanted to and go do whatever they want with it?
the code is theirs. So we build it bespoke each time for each client, and the code is theirs.
Cool. Okay. All right. So let's back up a little bit. I want to talk about the beginnings of the company. Like you're a partner there, but you were saying you weren't one of the founders. So like what motivated the founders to start the company? What were just kind of those beginnings? Like why are you guys doing it? Just in general? Like, what's kind of that early journey look like?
Yeah, so the longer story is this was born out of a 15-year-old legacy SaaS company. And so that product is called iForm Builder. It was the first app in the App Store back in 2009 doing offline mobile data collection. So lots of field team stuff, ag, utilities, engineering, industries like that. And so that was, great for a long time. The last few years kind of unfolded, and we saw technology changing, AI becoming more of a thing. We saw that the growth pattern for the legacy piece was probably not going to match this great thing coming down the road with AI. And so we spent some time before we launched this product at the end of last year figuring out how we were going to use AI to our advantage. We finally kind of came to the position where we were going to launch FieldApps AI to build customer-driven, just-in-time, bespoke software for field teams. Yeah, it was really more of a strategic move to make sure that we were still in a growth company and not just this like steady Eddie ARR company.
Sure. Okay. Um, what kind of struggles did you guys hit early on? I mean, there's always something, right? I mean, you had a great idea. Good news is you came from a legacy company, so there was infrastructure, there was good, no brain drain kind of thing. But I mean, there's no way it was perfect, right? Like what
Not at all.
what
Not at all.
happened? What happened early?
Well, like simultaneously, not only has this AI thing become a real thing that, businesses are going to be built on, but also the go-to-market function has totally changed, right? You have those traditional ways where you cold call your way to millions and do the marketing necessary to get some content out there that was valuable and reach a lot of people. But now connection rates on cold calls are abysmally low, and the content generation has become more king. But there's so much content now being created that you have to separate yourself, and so that's where we've um, gone through some struggles and still are figuring it out on the fly because we're this like garage startup. So I have to split my brain over there a lot, and then we have this legacy product. They don't necessarily equate. And so
Hmm.
I have to kind of think differently on how we're going to go to market with this AI product. And so I was just at a SaaS conference here in Austin, Texas, a few weeks ago, talking to people actually figuring out how to go to market in the modern era.
So you're kind of having a kind of a classic speed bump of that the marketing side, right? It's like, okay, we built this great thing, but how do we tell people about it? The right people,
Right.
right? How do we even get them interested? And listen, hey, you're preaching to the choir. I mean, like I've been in tech for 25 years. I get it. And I've always told people, I'm like, what I love about tech is that it is the smartest people I've ever met who make the greatest products I've ever seen. And they have the worst time telling people, right? And there's this analogy. It's kind of like if you had a brick of gold, but you were locked in a cave, it's not worth anything.
Right.
If you have a bag of crap, but you're not in a cave, there's a farmer out there that'll consider it fertilizer, right? So it's not, it's like if no one knows about it, it doesn't matter how good it is, I guess, is the point. So I get that. But so what types of because I'm a marketing guy, I like talking about marketing and people like hearing about it because it helps them figure out maybe how they would grow. So you said you were going to conferences and whatnot. You're doing a podcast. That's a great start there. What are some things that did you try cold calling? Because you're saying it has abysmal connection rates. Is that just from your research, or were you guys actually trying to do that? Like, what kind of marketing have you done that didn't work, and what kind of marketing have you done that has actually gained some traction?
Yeah, so we don't give up on cold calling. That's where I come from. I like interacting with humans in that way to figure out if they have a pain point that maybe we can solve for them. So we still continue to do that, but not so many years ago, out of 100 calls, you would get 14 people on the line. Now you're getting 3 to 4. So
Yeah,
you have to make so many more calls in order to, have a nice conversation with someone who has a real pain point that wants to take the conversation further. And so we still do it, but the content creation thing, we're all over filling up our YouTube page with things that we create, and that's kind of runs the gamut. We have things that show a demo of things we've built with AI code gen.
yeah,
We have one pagers, things like that. We post on all the major social media channels. So we're email marketing campaigns, which everyone does, and there's a lot of noise out there with that. But we just want to hit everyone all along the customer journey, whether they are at the point where they don't realize they have a problem, all the way towards the end where they actually want to talk to someone because they've had all these internal conversations and have budget to actually solve the problem that they have.
sure. Well, how about this? I'm an ideas guy, as I say. So, is your product capable of coming in to a current software? So, if you could you know call up a software and say, listen, here's what you're probably already dealing with. You're probably going to have, dead code in there somewhere because you've had this system for 5, 10 years or whatever. And you're probably paying a ton of overseas people all this, but although they are very cheap on labor, it's still costing you XYZ. What if we installed our AI maintenance engine, for example, to go in and debug things and it stays in there? Like someone who already has a software who doesn't need a demo, can they go to the second half of what you do? Are you able to install the AI maintenance, debugger, and new feature adder, so to speak, after the fact for a current software that already exists that someone has?
So we actually have a project that is at the near the conclusion where we did sort of just that. So we took a legacy piece of software, we rebuilt the whole thing via AI code gen, obviously taking what they liked and enhancing it and then adding to it
They
features that
gave you the
didn't.
I imagine they gave you the access to the original base code though, right? Because that's a different thing.
We don't actually need it, but they
Oh,
did in this instance.
okay.
But we can actually just take screenshots. We don't need the source code.
I mean, that's like I believe you, but it's hard to believe,
I
right?
know.
If you had said, "Hey, yeah, they gave us their code so that we had that, and then we integrated into what they had, and it worked out." I'm like, great, but it's like it's almost phenomenal to hear that someone can have a legacy software that already exists, right? Just and anyone who understands coding just understands. just the immense amount of data that is stacked and stacked and stacked. And then for someone to say, no, we'll just rebuild it, that would make someone maybe a little nervous because even if they like believe you a little bit, it's kind of like, yeah, but like, can it really? Because we've done all this work. How can they just replicate? There's also an ego investment there too. Let's not forget, someone might not even want to know that you can replicate what they did in in a week, with an AI that they spent $3 million building. So I mean, listen, I think it's a great avenue for you guys to go into the legacy stuff too, however you do it, right? I don't know if I would market it as that way though, just because I feel like a lot of people might someone's gonna get fired. You know what I mean? They're like, well, how did you not know we could do this? We spent $3 million on this.
Well, it's funny, like people hire these consulting firms to spend a lot of money to build it. And then 3, 4, 5 years later, the people that build it at those consulting companies, a lot of times are gone. They moved on to other things. And so they're not going to be the one revisiting the code that they built. And so some other team of humans has to go into someone else's code. Like it's all just antiquated. And really, coders should be wiping their ego away and realizing that they need to get very adept at using AI rather than trying to fight the use of AI. Because
Yeah.
it's here. And, I'm not a coder, but I work with a bunch of people that are, and none of them code anymore. Um,
Yeah, I've always said it's like a stampede of stallions coming right at you, and
mhm.
you can, if you don't invest in saddles, then you're gonna get run over. You're gonna get
Yep.
trampled. I mean, that's all it is. The people who are gonna survive the AI revolution are gonna be people who understand how to manage it, right? And, anyone else is gonna be a victim at some point, right? Now, I don't have all the answers, but that one looks pretty obvious as way. But what I do love about this is I never love things that, might take away jobs, but I do believe that things like this can create it can create more jobs too, because you know, if more people have access to building things, then they're going to go after capital. Like maybe their company doesn't need as many people, but that company never would have existed at all if it wasn't for the ability to do this, right? When you have a technology like what you guys are doing, and not just technology, you've built a product and a system, and that works, which is great. it it might take away from some other people's jobs, but then you got to think of the thousands of people or millions who have just been sitting on ideas, like myself. I mean, you've talked about this. I'm like, man, I've been wanting to do this one software for so long, but I know what it would cost to do, and it's just so cost prohibitive. And by the time it gets done, it'd probably be outdated, but anyway, because of how fast things are moving. But yours also lets you keep up with the speed, which I think is great because as new AI features come out, and I imagine that the AI engine within it, because it's linked to a compute somewhere, right? And as like GPT or whatever gets updated with its abilities, that automatically feeds to someone's software. So the coding could even get better. The type of new features could get more elaborate that it's capable of doing in real time because it's the back end is advancing with the technology, even though I'm not investing in it, right?
Yeah, so that's a pretty good way to characterize that. So, for distinction, we're not putting any of our clients' code that we create via AI Cogen into public large language models. So, we
Okay,
still
good.
have to adhere to our terms and conditions where everything's protected. We do business globally, places with, like GDPR and or
Yeah.
SOC 2 compliance. So, all that is siloed in a single environment for them in AWS. But yeah, to your point, like it does get smarter all the time. And
Yeah.
the more we feed it, the more we build with it, it actually becomes easier. To your other point, the who's going to win out in this is not traditionally been, well, traditionally was the people in Silicon Valley who were the best software developers. They got the VC money, they had the best idea, all the money flowed to them. I read a great article from Kleiner Perkins where they nailed it, where creatives are now going to rule everything. And so, to your point,
Yes.
yeah, if you just have a good
Finally.
idea, you can make it happen. So
Finally, it's our time.
it's our time. I'm not a coder either. I'm very excited about this
I'm
time.
not a coder. Yeah, this
Yeah,
is great. I have too many ideas. I have to manage myself when it comes to that because I'll get way too distracted if I don't.
yeah, no, it's an exciting time. Creatives are going to win out. Who has the best idea is going to win, and that's where the VC money and the investment money is going to flow. And so you no longer have to be the best of the best software developer to wow the investors.
That's amazing. I love that. Okay. Let's talk about the future, right? The future right there. It says it on
Yes.
the board. Uh, First, let's talk about you guys. Where do you guys want to be in a year? If we have this conversation again, what is your goal? And that can be in any way. Maybe it's revenue growth, maybe it's feature, maybe it's a certain amount of clients. What is your main focus metric that's the most important to you, let's say, 12 months from now?
Yeah, we certainly want to prove it via the revenue side for sure. I mean, that's my role in the company. And so to make our first million in the next 18 months, that would be a goal. So we feel like with the go-to-market changes that we're making, we can get it to a wider audience. Being at that SaaS conference a few weeks ago and telling them exactly what I'm telling you, fellow founders, other VPs of sales and partners, people with SaaS companies, AI companies, they were like, that's awesome. And so I said, well, yeah, I think so too. But the reason I'm here is I need more people to know about it. So
Right.
once we do that, which we're going through that motion to figure that out right now and seeing some benefits of that, we should hit our first million in 18 months. That's a goal. And so once that's proven, I mean, now we know we have a real offering to the market. There's product market fit. There's some hunger for it. And now we can just continue to innovate with the customer-driven aspect of this.
Mhm.
We're innovating based on partnership with the people that we're building for. So it's a really nice place to be. And then,
That is really good.
a non-metric thing that we would like to be known as is just a thought leader in the place. We still kind of stay in ag, utilities, engineering, food and beverage, some industries we've served historically, but really we could do business with anybody.
Well, so let's talk about that then, because the next question is basically where do you see this technology in the next 3 to 4 years, if that's even predictable at the rate that it's going, because it's so fast. But you might also be creating a very competitive market for yourself, but by even letting people know, like that's the irony. You let everyone know what you can do, and a lot of people are going to hire you for it, which is great. So being first helps, right? But what you're doing from a simplistic standpoint is not something that's non-replicatable, right? The technology's there. People, there's someone out there listening that could go, oh, I could do that too. So what is your plan, or what have you guys thought about as far as the market growing and having more competition, and then also where do you see the technology going that can give you even bigger capabilities? Like what's kind of on the wish list?
Yeah, so I mean, to your first point, we already have competition. Like we're not the only players in town doing this. And that's great. It pushes all of us, right? And in any big shift in technology or innovation, you have people who win and people who don't, right? So we'd love to be one of the people that win. And that means we've done right by our clients. We've built things that are useful. And we have repeat business from people who want to take their creative ideas and make it into something real. That's certainly an aim of ours. Um, as far as anything else, the technology itself, I mean, everything's just going to get faster, one. So we could have this conversation a year from now, and it's no longer 90 days and it's a week, right?
Wow.
And the turnaround to your portal where you put in your ideas to add to the software, it's no longer X amount of time based on whatever the ask is. It comes back to, within a few minutes.
Mhm.
So the speed is going to continue to increase because everything gets smarter. It's going to be able to build faster and deploy faster.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's funny something you said earlier about the creatives being the new winners coming up, which makes sense, right? I'm going to add to that. I actually also think that full service companies who use AI are going to be the winners, and here's why. If you follow the path of once you start lowering the barriers, excuse me, boy, I'm just coughing over my own podcast here. Once you lower the barriers to entry to anything, it starts to flood, right? You get people who can come in, and again, that's good in one way, and it's also bad another way. What I see happening with our when we're talking about this is it becomes a point where you like you said, anyone with an idea can then create a software in a week, like you said, eventually, right? Right now it's 90 days. It can be a whole full enterprise in a week. And that kind of floods the zone. And what you'll have is a million people trying to sell their softwares, but it's so overwhelming for business owners because everyone's like, they don't know where to start. You're like, yeah, I know you all have the software. Great. Who do I go with? And I think where the service companies are going to start to win is because they're like, listen, sit back, don't worry about anything. You don't even have to know about the tech. You don't have to know about that. We're going to be outcome driven salespeople essentially, right, for our business, and say we're just going to get you to from here to here. Let us figure out how that's going to happen. Maybe we build a software, right, because it becomes a tool in our toolbox. But I think what's going to end up happening is that it's going to be so overwhelming of so much inbound and so many options, just complete option fatigue, that I think businesses are going to start leaning toward companies and individuals that don't even go into the details of things like that. They just say, listen, I'm just going to solve your problem. Let me deal with the inordinate amount of options that are out there, and or we'll create something custom. It's fine because even then, if the time slows, that also means that probably the cost will come down because it'll just be so much easier to pump them out. So now you have maybe some marketing agency that has one of the tools in their tool belt is just to create a software custom for that client, which was never something that you could just do, right? But instead of telling the client, oh, they're looking at 45 different softwares because everyone is pumping them out right now, I think it becomes a little overwhelming, right? And so now it's just like, hey, what do you want to happen in 12 months? Okay, great. I will make that happen and I will do certain things to get there, but you don't have to worry about the rest. Like I think that's where I see it going. Do you agree? Do you disagree as far as the additional winners on top of creatives?
Yeah, so the term I've thrown around here is like white glove AI,
Yeah.
right? So
Mhm.
we still love this human to human part, sitting down. People like to feel heard, right? Like I have this pain point. And I like to kind of liken it to, the red leather couch in the psychiatrist's office, right? Like just lay down and tell me all your problems. And so we still want to continue to do that. We don't want to just have go to the website, no humans, get your thing, and you don't get necessarily maybe the human touch experience that you're looking for. You can have that option too to make it quick for those that in a B2B way just want the thing that they want and they don't care to speak to someone like myself or anyone on my team. But we're still going to offer the human connection.
That's good. And yeah, because I think that's what solves the overwhelming nature of so many options, right? It's like, can I just talk to someone who can just listen to what I'm trying to do and then they can pick it? Like,
Yep.
I mean, that's why you have consultants, right? That's why you have concierge, right? Because you're like, I have a million options, but I don't have the time. I don't have the energy to go research all of it. I'm sure you've done that. So help me out, man, right? So that, yeah, again, I think that's why certain service types of companies could have a heyday on top of creatives for that reason alone. Because I just think the barrier of entry is going to keep exponentially going lower and lower, which is going to drive up the amount of competition. But it's not going to be good quality competition, but it will be overwhelming choice, I believe, right? Um, okay, let's talk about this real quick here. You've done a lot in your career. You guys are you're part of a legacy company that is building a new thing as well. What kind of advice do you have for any executives or VPs or whatever listening right now if they're trying to pivot to something? Maybe they are a legacy company and they're trying to figure out how do we stay relevant, right? You guys figured out a great way to take something that was kind of older and stagnant and say, okay, but what can we do with our expertise to re-energize this company and revitalize it, right? What kind of advice do you have for people who might be struggling in that way where they're flatlining and they're not really sure what to do about it?
Yeah, I mean, one thing would be obviously to think about, a hole you can fill, right? There's a need out there that no one's really filling. Can you recognize that? And then can you execute to actually fill that hole, right? And then, but as you go through that process, you just have to be okay with making mistakes, right? We started this journey a long time ago. The fact that we launched this at the end of last year, no one saw what we went through the previous year and a half to figure it out. And we're not saying we figured it all out. That is not true at all. Like we continue to make mistakes and we continue to push forward though and keep trying things, cast things to the side that clearly are not going to work for the market and, go full force into the things that you're like, yeah, there's some legs here, right? So my advice really is just like be okay with making mistakes. Just learn fast and move on fast from them.
Totally agree. That's fantastic advice. Josh, where can people find you personally if they heard something that they like and they want to engage with you? And then where can they find Field Apps?
Yeah, so me personally, you can easily find me on LinkedIn, Josh Snyder, VP of Sales Partner at Zarian Software slash FieldApps.ai. And then, or J Snyder at ZarianSoftware.com. You can find me there. For our company, FieldApps.ai is the website, and you can see some demos that we've built, a lot of good information on kind of why we do what we do, how we do it, how we engage with you as the client to get you what you want, most importantly. Our YouTube page is filling up fast and fast and fast with lots of content that we're creating. So Field Apps AI on YouTube, those are great resources to like really get a flavor of what we're doing, and then easy to obviously reach out to us and talk about, maybe something that we could do for you.
Awesome. And listen, for everyone else listening out there, thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Future of Biz Tech. If you liked what you heard today, give it a 5-star rating, share it, all those sorts of things, because that is how tech nerds like us find cool podcasts like this. Josh, thank you so much for being on the show, and I really look forward to talking to you soon because I've got all my own ideas too, man.
Yeah, I
Let's do
appreciate
this.
it, JC.
All right, talk to you soon.
Bye bye.